It's Tuesday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello, Tokwe, how are you?
I'm good.
Nice and bright.
Yeah.
Yellow and white. How you doing?
I'm very, very grateful.
Did you see
to
that?
God.
Nice and bright.
Yellow and
white. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm rapping. I'm rapping.
Yeah, rhyming.
Hey, I'm rhyming. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm really, really grateful to God for all the support. You know, you just say something and it just happened. So Morayo and BC had this slight chat yesterday concerning BC wanting to support teachers, and boom, 50K showed up. Like that, you know, someone just sent me a message and said, I want to support what BC wants to do. And I think that it just starts with one person doing something. A lot of times we think, oh, I can't do it, it's so much. But if you just do one, you know, the rule of one drop, and then you just have one ocean, you know. Yeah. So just each person should just make a move to be kind, and people will support you to achieve what you want. I'm just reflecting on that and thinking,
good stuff.
Just start.
How you doing, Mariam?
Fine.
I love the hat.
Thank you. So I got this as a birthday gift, and so
nice.
You know, your friend, when you're friends with young people, they just keep pushing you.
Yeah.
So a very lovely lady, Justina, makeup room gave it to me. She gave me two.
Oh my
black
God, Justina.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Really nice.
I saw the picture online and I was like, let me see how you're going to rock it, because I know that you would make it work.
Thank you. Thank you.
She would never give me that kind of thing.
Because they know you won't wear it.
I just give it to my children, you know. But talking about gifts, I still got this as a gift. But gifts are still coming in from a lady called Uju Style. Forever Young, I believe is her brand. And
so she's heard about your like for this particular color.
I don't even know. She just sent me the gift.
Nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
The color works. The styling is beautiful.
Yeah, I really like it.
She didn't know your measurements. The cut is nice.
You've never met her?
I never met her.
We need to really encourage.
I have to go online and go and check her out. I
Wow.
can check if her page is on so that I can follow her. But thank you, Uju Style, for this lovely dress. I really appreciate it. And gifts, I mean, somebody sent me 10,000 naira yesterday.
Wow.
I mean, and these are just regular Nigerians. These are not any big.
But Mariah, they don't know.
So this is their way of just appreciating you, just using your voice.
I'm feeling that love like crazy.
But Mariah, you sow seeds like crazy.
Yeah,
and there's a concept of seed and harvest. You cannot sow. You sow in secret, you're being rewarded, and you're like wondering, but you were sowing. Like, that's the way life works.
Let's go and break it Tuesday. When we come back, we'll go through the front pages of the papers. Stay with us, we'll be right back. All right, we're going to start with The Nation. PTF airborne transmission of coronavirus possible. Magu didn't pay Falana 28 million naira. I read that story. Lagos decries doctors' strike as insensitive. Unclaimed dividends now 158.4 billion naira. Magu's office searched by detectives. Let's take the major headline. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, so yesterday the PTF met, and in the press release, the NCDC boss, Ipe Iyazu, mentioned that in alignment with the WHO's regulation, COVID-19 is now airborne in Nigeria.
It's not. There's like a possibility.
But he was saying that, one, nose mask is compulsory now. He said that based on the spread, that there's a possibility, not possibility, the word, let me quote him right.
Now.
The word that was
let me quote him right. He said, over the past few weeks, increasing evidence has emerged. In addition to droplet infection, we cannot rule out airborne transmission is also possible, a mode of COVID-19 spread.
That's a very, very definitive word, possible. We cannot rule out.
Yes.
Because we don't want to send panic out there.
Okay. So everybody wear nose mask. And he also mentioned that it is worse within crowded, when you're in enclosed areas where you don't have proper ventilation, the risk is higher. And so you should reduce being in such places, but outdoor is still easier, you know.
That's why I worry about flights reopen, you know.
Because everybody's breathing in the same thing. It's
although
really,
I
really
saw
something.
something.
The same thing.
Talking about, so I wanted to take on the story. Nation had initially reported on their online that Magu had paid Femi Falana SAN for 28 million naira, and they took it down. Said that was false. They had taken it off a different page, and they apologized to the lawyer, said that we hold you in high esteem. Kindly accept our apology. So on their behalf too, they also say,
so that they don't get a fine. I want to take story of unpaid dividends, because when I saw it, I'm like...
The lawyer, the doctors?
No, unpaid dividends.
Okay.
So we have 158 billion naira unpaid dividends, and it crossed the 100 billion a few months back, and they are saying that this is cost. The DC of the SEC, Yuguda, is saying that this is caused by many people in the boom of the banking era bought shares in different names. I haven't claimed dividends in years, Mariah. I know I have shares across a few banks, Dangote Sugar, so Dangote Salt.
We can go
yes, our money is hanging there and it's accumulating. Yes. So he's saying that if you have shares, go and regularize it. If you have shares in multiple names, go and regularize. There's a window to help you merge. As some people have shares in banks that have that were merged, and that those shares are still active. So if you bought into maybe Intercontinental and all of that,
that is good news.
And regularize your
so I
shares.
guess I'll go to the bank, because I did buy shares back like about 10, 15 years ago.
And get a registrar to work for you. So the funds with registrars are not much, but individual shares have over 100 million.
Hey,
100 billion. So go and claim your money.
It's my season of breaking. Hallelujah. Okay, moving on to the Punch. Ministry lists guidelines, omits resumption date. That's concerning school resumption, confusion. Lagos urges doctors to end strike and resume work. Cultists jailed 20 years for raping undergrad at the Federal University of Ekiti. How kidnapped kingpin Wadume was rearrested after Balaribu's troops aided escape. 3,600 rape cases recorded during lockdown, says minister. 35 Kwara doctors have tested positive for COVID-19 since NMA. CBN places serial loan defaulters on watch list. And NFIU submits report on Magu's Forex transactions to panel. Okay, let's talk about the rape.
Yes, so the Minister for Women Affairs and Social Development, Senator Pauline Tallen, during a visit with Senator Omo Agege, you know, he had just proposed, the sexual harassment bill, so she was applauding him for that, and also mentioned that on the average during the lockdown alone, the period of the lockdown, we recorded about 100 cases per state of rape. And obviously, this is a pandemic on its own. And so I guess she's joining forces with the senator and, you know, to push this, the campaign for, you know, sexual harassment and everything.
Important.
Very important.
Major headline.
Okay, yes.
So the ministry...
We can take that one elsewhere. I think it's elsewhere, but... No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So the Ministry of Education has released guidelines for resumption, but they didn't include when the resumption would take place. What I wanted to actually highlight is the fact that the southwestern states are having a meeting today. And the idea is that this meeting is going to help them decide amongst themselves that if we are prepared, and is there a legal framework for us as southwestern states to go ahead with the WASSCE exams. And I'm looking forward to what that will be. Lagos State Commission of Education said the government would make known its decision this week. So we can wait within Southwest to know what Southwest.
And then just concerning our guest today, who was Mr. Otubela, who is the president of the National Association of Private School Owners, he was saying that the federal government had approved through the Vice President's Economic Council, approved certain amounts of money to be paid to private school owners. But the Ministry of Education has come back to say, we don't have that kind of money. We can't pay. We didn't plan to pay private school teachers. That if they do need support, they need to go and apply through the the
central bank. The Central Bank of Nigeria has a window provided by the federal government to support small and medium-scale businesses.
The intervention fund.
There's even a COVID intervention fund also that they can support. So, but we were really happy yesterday. But I guess they busted our bubble. There was a human interest story I wanted to take about that young man. He was 24 years old and allegedly raped a 19-year-old in Federal University of Ekiti. He's got 20 years life imprisonment for raping. That's for that. I'm really happy that justice came quickly than usually fast. Not as fast. Usually we don't get as fast as this one came. So I'm happy about that. Moving on now to Daily Sun. Security seals Magu's office. Doctor strike paralyzes Lagos hospitals. COVID-19, FG rejigs airport protocols. APC Southeast Youth want Igbo presidents. And reps grill NDDC boss over the 90.4 billion naira extra budgetary expenditure, 150 abandoned projects. Okay, let's talk about Magu. Who has Magu's story?
Yeah, I have Magu's story. So there are multiple angles to Magu's story across different newspapers, everybody reporting one new information or the other. So the NFIU have released a report concerning Magu and the transactions that took place between him and the Bureau de Change. They said that it had nothing to do with the burglary, that their information was stored in the cloud. And so burglary did not affect any data they have. And they are also handling many other sensitive investigations that they wouldn't jeopardize it by keeping physical documents. The pastor, however, came out. General Overseer denies a release that said that he got 573 million naira on behalf of Magu, and that he doesn't have any foreign accounts. He didn't buy any property in Dubai. That right now they're saying because he met with Magu in Dubai, that he is culpable in purchase of property. He said he doesn't have a foreign account. He didn't buy any property in Dubai. He just went to Dubai to pray for Magu when he wasn't feeling fine earlier in the year. Media trial is a no-no. I know that EFCC has done it. I know that everybody does it. But in this case, let's know the facts. The newspapers should do thorough investigations. Don't post unless you have confirmed it is a fact. Nigerians are reading, and we want to know we can trust what we're reading.
All right, let's move on to the airports.
The airport. So the Minister for Aviation is saying that, having looked at it, they moved it, the time when passengers are meant to be at the airport from 3 hours to 1 hour 30 minutes, but also saying to passengers to be aware that there may be delay in flights because the process is much longer now, checks and rechecks, and making sure that the guidelines and all the procedures for safety would be, carried out. So those are the things that he's...
Quick one, please. They should, our leaders know how to travel to Dubai for every strategy meeting. Could they see the documentary by the United Arab Emirates about how Dubai is reopening and how every park has been marked with boxes and all of that? We can prepare better for this, because human beings will be human beings. They will behave unruly. The government is supposed to ensure there are structures on ground that will not allow that unruliness take place. So we can do more.
Moving on to Vanguard. Day 6, panel quizzes Magu over 700 million naira training fund. COVID-19, FG unveils 52-page guidelines for school reopening. Kidnapping, court admits 6 guns recovered from Wadume into evidence. PNID, Nigeria seeks more time to appeal the $9.6 billion award. NDDC, Akpabio Joy Nunea in War of Dirty Words. And 36 doctors in Kwara test positive for COVID-19. Okay, which story are we taking?
The NDDC.
Yes.
Yeah, so the Minister of Niger Delta Development Commission and the former MD of the same commission, that's Godswill Akpabio and Mrs. Nonye, they have been going back and forth with each other in the media for all of us to hear and see. So she's accusing him of sexual harassment, inflating NDDC contracts, asking her to change dollars to Naira immediately. He, on the other hand, is saying, well, this all started because of the 40 billion Naira investigation that the Senate, had started on the NDD, the probe on NDDC. And he's saying, well, there's no 40 billion missing, and during the time that Mrs. Nonye was MD, she never gave him any briefings. So he was accused of insubordination, of corruption, of not even having the papers or qualification to be,
the usual Nigerian politician's accusation. He doesn't even have certificates.
Yeah, so they said she does not have NYC certificate. This I saw on TV where he was saying that but he wanted to keep it on a hush-hush. I'm like, if she did have NYC, keep it on a hush-hush is not the good thing.
Exactly.
You should have said something then.
He didn't accuse her of insubordination. He didn't accuse her of corruption. He accused her of insubordination and the fact that she had 4 husbands.
Yes.
And that she can't ask her 4 husbands.
Yeah, so he
after all the heavy things she's levied against him, it is the fact that her husband, that's his own problem. That she can't ask her husband.
There are more serious issues. We have a case of 35 doctors, 35 doctors in Kwara have confirmed to be COVID-19 positive. We also have 25 people in the University Teaching Hospital of Ebonyi, just one hospital in Ebonyi State, 25 confirmed positive. So the NMA chairman has said that the people shouldn't come to the hospital unless they have life-threatening medical conditions. And also, people should stop believing that COVID-19 is something the government has cooked up to get funds, that the numbers are spurious. The numbers are real. So if anybody is still there, the numbers are real.
I think that train has passed because they see some really important politicians passed on this matter. So I think Nigerians are getting the message now, but just that there is that laziness to actually do the work of wearing the face mask and washing their hands. That is the issue. But we need to move on. We didn't talk about the Lagos State doctor strike because hopefully at some point during the show we'll be able to address it. Nigerians, because they've been in a meeting on Sunday where this was addressed. They had another meeting yesterday and there's still going to be another meeting again today. So we'll give you the details of that a bit later. Let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your view.
Thanks for staying with us. So amid COVID-19 issues, there are recent incidences of people slumping and eventually dying because of heart attacks. Many prominent people have made the headlines, and ordinary Nigerian citizens are not left out. As such, we want to understand exactly what is a heart attack and how can it be treated and prevented. Here to discuss this important issue is a consultant interventional cardiologist and medical director of Eurocare Multi-Specialist Hospital, Victoria Island, Lagos, Dr. Tosin Majakodumi. Good morning, doctor. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clearly. I'm glad to have you on the show today. So, heart attacks. Yes, heart attacks. In recent times, we're hearing of people just slump and die immediately while jogging or just having a regular day. Could you tell us exactly what exactly is a heart attack? Let's start from the basics. What exactly is a heart attack, and how is it different from a cardiac arrest?
Well, this is a very timely topic. So, a heart attack is essentially is a layman's term, but what it really means is that the heart is basically a muscle, and it has its own blood supply. A heart attack is what we call what happens when part of that blood supply is temporarily blocked, so that a part of the heart is not getting enough blood. That is really what we call a heart attack. Now, you already talked about cardiac arrest. A heart attack can lead to a cardiac arrest, which is why a heart attack is such an emergency. Because if a part of the heart is not getting enough blood, that part of the heart can decide, the electrical activity in that part of the heart can become very abnormal, such that the heart now stops working, which now is a cardiac arrest, which is why when somebody has a heart attack, we have to intervene quickly so that we don't allow it to get to a point where there is a cardiac arrest.
Okay, well, so what would you say should be are the symptoms that most people who have it or who have it, what are the symptoms before they have a heart attack? What, like the warning signs? What are those warning signs that you may see and think, oh, maybe I should get to the hospital before it gets to a heart attack or cardiac arrest?
It's an excellent question. It's very important for our listeners to really be aware of the kinds of things that should be warning signs that they may be at risk of having a heart attack. The first thing I would say is that you need to have a number of things, what we call risk factors, that make it more likely that you're going to have a heart attack. So any of your listeners who happen to have hypertension, which is very common in our society, diabetes, high cholesterol, smoking, or even a family history of somebody at a relatively young age having a heart attack, those are people who should be on the lookout for thinking, if I have anything, I should be worried that I'm having a heart attack. Now, what are the things that they should be noticing that will make them think they're having a heart attack? This would be things, the classic thing is chest pain. So whenever anybody is having chest pain, the concern always has to be that, is this a risk or is this the manifestation of a heart attack? Sometimes people don't like to call it pain. They will say it's a discomfort. They can call it a burning. They can say it's not a pain, but it's a pressure in my chest. Any of those kind of symptoms always make us worry about the possibility of a heart attack.
Now, before I come to Sokwe, you said something earlier about graduating from a heart attack to cardiac arrest. How many seconds or how many minutes do we have between that? Because people always fear that once you have a heart attack, that's the end. Is there a possibility to save somebody's life before he gets to a heart attack? And how long do we have to get the person to the hospital?
Okay. Excellent question. So it varies. The truth of the answer is it varies. So some people, unfortunately, and we always put this at about 50%, or 50% of people that have a heart attack, we as doctors never even get an opportunity to intervene on them, because sadly, as you said in your introduction, they just slump and die on the spot. Yeah. Because the moment they have the first symptom of heart attack, be it chest pain, the heart goes into a crazy rhythm, they go immediately into cardiac arrest, and then they slump and they die, as we say. But for the other 50%, there is time to be able to do something. And this is why this topic is so important, because your listeners need to know that if they have chest pain, they feel any abnormal shortness of breath, they get palpitations that won't go away, and they feel very unwell, they must immediately take themselves to a hospital and get themselves assessed and very quickly know whether what they're having is something else or it's a heart attack. And if it's a heart attack, then there is a time frame for dealing with that heart attack before permanent damage occurs to the heart. If you intervene quickly, the damage is only temporary and the heart can pretty much go back to normal. Okay. But if you wait too long, then the heart attack, the damage becomes permanent and you can't reverse that damage no matter what you do. So we always encourage people, the moment you get those symptoms, chest pain, shortness of breath, you feel unwell, go immediately to the hospital, because the guidelines for us is that if you come to our hospital, for example, you need to, if the blood vessel is blocked, we need to open that blood vessel within 90 minutes of you arriving in the hospital.
Okay. So I wanted to ask concerning the palpitation, the shortness of breath. These symptoms sometimes are unrelated to, could it be sometimes unrelated to heart attack? Can somebody not, okay, so let me put it this way. I'm young. I actually used to have palpitations and I used to have chest pain, like a squeezing serious chest pain. I don't have hypertension. Yeah. I don't have high blood pressure. I've done extensive medical check, but occasionally it still comes up. So what can someone like me do in that situation? And what should I be worried whenever that comes up?
That's a fantastic question. So the answer to your question is you don't need to be worried. And the reason why is for exactly what you said. You are not hypertensive, you're not diabetic, you don't smoke, you're not in the right age group to have a heart attack. And there are many causes of shortness of breath, there are many causes of hypertension. The vast majority of those causes are not due to heart attacks. Only a minority of those patients will have a heart attack. But the problem is that aside from yourself, which you are young, you don't have any of the risk factors, it is very unlikely that you have a heart attack. If it was, say, your mom or your dad, heaven forbid, that was having those kind of symptoms when they are older, they may have the kind of risk factors that would lead you to suspect a heart attack. They need to be dealt with differently. They are the people that will need a heart attack.
What's the difference?
That will need attention, that will need to be evaluated for a heart attack and are at higher risk of having a heart attack.
So what will be that difference? So if God forbid, someone in my mom's age bracket has palpitation, shortness of breath, and of course there's underlying conditions, what would that person do? What's the treatment option? What's the first line of action?
The first line of action is get yourself to a hospital, get yourself seen by a cardiologist. There are hospitals in Nigeria now where if you present early enough, they have essentially operating rooms, what we call cardiac catheterization laboratories, which is where if you're having a heart attack, we can find a blood vessel that is blocked and we can unblock it for you. We have that at Urake Multi-Specialist Hospital, and there are a number of other hospitals that have the same. So the main thing is to get yourself to a hospital where if you're having a heart attack, they can intervene and unblock that blood vessel within 90 minutes of them getting there. But the key message here is that anybody in the risk group who has any of these symptoms, they cannot take a chance. They need to go immediately to a hospital and get assessed.
Right.
And the minimum assessment that is required is that they must get an ECG. So they can't go to a hospital and someone tells them, oh, you have ulcer, take some tablets. That cannot work. They must have an ECG done. And somebody must look at that ECG and make sure that that ECG is not suspicious of a heart attack before anything else happens. That is a really crucial piece of information.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, sometimes social media, you get these broadcast messages that tell you, oh, if you have an onset of a heart attack, you can tell from, you know, the palpitations, you should cough or have someone hit your back. And then we see movies where people are, you know, give it mouth to mouth, and also the compression on the chest. Yeah. So are these things that we can learn as individuals if you find yourself around someone before you get an ambulance or get the person to the hospital?
So there, I mean, as you said, there are a lot of things we see in social media and on the movies. Now, one has to be very careful in these situations because those of course, are usually fictional circumstances. And if we are going to go with the evidence base, what most people need to learn are the basics of basic life support. So if someone is having difficulties, if you apply the principles of basic life support, that is going to be very helpful. And if you have advanced cardiac life support, that's even better. Where if somebody is arrested, you help them with resuscitation. Mouth to mouth, for example, in the new guidelines is no longer indicated. The most important thing is to continue, somebody whose pulse has stopped and does not have a heartbeat, is to provide chest compressions, as you see in the movies, in order to keep the circulation going until you can get them to a hospital where they can hopefully reverse the cause of why that patient has arrested. But the most important thing that I think your listeners need to be aware of, if you see anybody in that circumstance, the most important thing is not to pour water on them or to give them Coke or something to drink. Get them to hospital. That has to be the underlying message.
Thank you very much, because we need that. Nigerian, our movies tell us just pour water, they wake up. Now, let's talk about let's talk about preventive measures, because for me, that's pretty important. We hear a lot of things like, oh, exercise, eat right, do this, do that. But quite a number of people who have slumped were either exercising. There was a gentleman who was playing football with his friends, and he just slumped. You know, so recently somebody was taking a walk and he slumped. So you ask us to exercise, we're exercising, and yet we're having heart attacks. Tell us about the preventive measures.
All right, so preventive measures, I think most people by now are aware of all the general messages regarding preventive measures, which is if you have high blood pressure, take your tablets, see your doctor regularly. If you have high blood pressure, make sure your blood pressure is consistently less than 130/80. So you have a lot of people who have high blood pressure, they are taking their tablets, but their blood pressure is 150, and they're saying, I'm taking my tablets, so I'm fine. You are not fine. You need to take more tablets. Your blood pressure needs to get down to 130/80 or less consistently. If you are diabetic, you need to get your blood sugars under good control. If you have high cholesterol, that needs to be treated. If you are somebody who smokes, you need to stop immediately. There is nothing good that comes from smoking. I'm very militant about smoking. There's just no need for it. You just need to stop, period. And if you have a family history, I'll tell you an interesting story. I had a gentleman. I had a gentleman recently who has a brother who lives abroad, and the brother, as you said in your introduction, slumped and died in a foreign country. But thankfully, it was a country where they do autopsies regularly. They did an autopsy and found that he had a heart attack. So when the brother now found out this very important piece of information, he brought himself to us. We did some tests on him, and it looked like he may have the same problem. We took him to the cath lab and found that he had a very dangerous narrowing in his blood vessels, and we treated it. And so that his risk of the same thing happening to him that happened to his brother is now much, much less. In addition to that, he has another brother who lives abroad. And because, again, they shared this information around the family, the other brother also went to a cardiologist abroad, had himself checked, and had the same problem, and also had to have his own blood vessels fixed as well, the same way as we fixed his blood vessels here in Lagos. And the reason I mention that is knowing the family history is very important. These two brothers potentially had their lives saved because they knew what happened to the unfortunate brother who happened to pass away unexpectedly. So the days of when we say somebody died, they were sick, you don't know the details. Those days need to pass. By knowing the details, you can actually save the lives of other people who are around.
Thank you so much. That's so important.
Very, very. I want to go back to people like me who, you've done the test, you've gone through all the processes, and you're saying that people like me are not at risk of having heart attack. But people like me are worried because you just have this pressure and there is pain in your left chest and you just feel these things and you're wondering, should I be worried? How worried should I be? And what can I do? Or people like me?
I think what you need to do is you need to get yourself to your doctor, and it's your doctor's job to reassure you that what you are feeling is not anything dangerous. I see a lot of patients almost on a daily basis who are exactly like yourself. They are young, they don't have much in the way of risk factors, they have some symptoms, and we as cardiologists, our job is to do our due diligence in seeing you, assessing you, and making sure that whatever it is you are having is not dangerous. And it may not just be a one-off. It may happen 2, 3, 4 times a year. When you have something, you may have to come and you get reassessed again. Because the important thing is, if I assess you today and you are low risk, that does not mean you are low risk again in 5 years' time, when you may feel the same thing. And then your risk profile might be different in 5 years' time. In 5 years' time, I'd be like, now I'm a bit suspicious. We need to go a little bit deeper and go more into this to make sure that this is not something that is dangerous. So the key message is you need to be in constant communication with your doctor. He needs to be assessing you constantly and regularly to make sure that as your risk profile changes as we all age, that his assessment of whatever symptoms you have are consistent with your risk profile at that time, not what your risk profile was 5 years ago, because you can
Right.
see a situation where, let's not say you, but somebody else was seen at the age of 40 or 45. They were seen by their doctor. They had some chest pain. It was nothing. Don't worry about it. It's fine. They are now 52. They're now having another chest pain, maybe slightly different to that other one. But the person says, "Oh my, I had this thing 6 or 5 years ago.
Okay,
My doctor said I'm fine. I don't need to worry."
Right.
And then it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
We have to wrap up soon, so I need to just throw in just 2 quick questions.
Yeah, I think you answered my question, because I was going to talk about those who are healthy today and they have this 5-year-old medical report that says they're fine, and we use it every year, like we're good. How often do you think a healthy person should go and check? And secondly, I wanted to ask, we live in Nigeria, fumes everywhere. You're talking about smoking, but we live in a country where everywhere we got fumes. Do we have the same risk as someone that smokes?
I don't know if I can throw mine in also, if you can remember. This is Nigeria. You feel pain. You go to the hospital. The first thing they treat you is malaria, typhoid, or something like. That's the first. You do that for like 3 months. But you won't get to the point where, it could be my heart, or it could be something else. So how do we, as a regular citizen, navigate from knowing I need to see a specialist or knowing see my GP to knowing I need to see a specialist? Because many times they just keep treating you for malaria and typhoid.
Yeah, I honestly can say this with a lot of confidence. So many times, in terms of the people that I treat, so many people have almost always been treated for malaria already. It's very difficult for me to comment too much, but I have a real distrust of this blanket diagnosis of malaria and typhoid. I tell my patients openly, if you go and see a doctor and all he ever does is diagnose you with malaria and typhoid, get a different doctor. Because that just cannot be that cannot always be the diagnosis that your doctor comes up with. In relation to the other question that you were asking, as regards
smoking,
how often should you be checked when you are healthy? I think I tell men usually that once you're above the age of 40, you should pretty much be having an annual physical. You go get your blood checked, get your blood pressure checked, your cholesterol, make sure you're not diabetic. And usually screening for other health conditions begins at that time. Your prostate screening can begin at that time. When you're 50, colon cancer begins at that time. For ladies, of course, it starts from a much younger age. Cervical cancer screening begins from the moment they're in their late teens. Breast cancer screening begins from the age of 40. Earlier, if there is a family history of breast cancer. So those are the general things that you should be doing when you're healthy. I tell my men that, listen, you can be a guy and have fun, but once you're 40, you need to start behaving yourself. And you really now start to adopt healthy lifestyles, walking, vegetables, cut out all the alcohol, definitely quit smoking, and start eating fruit and vegetables more regularly. All the healthy things they need to start doing, just like their parents are doing, unfortunately.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Majakodomi, for joining us this morning. We appreciate quite a bit of information you've given to us. Thank you very much. We've been speaking with the director of Eurocare Multi-Specialist Hospital, Victoria Island, Dr. Tosin Majakodomi. Let's go on a break. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. So recently, immigration stopped 58 Nigerian medical doctors from traveling to the United Kingdom. According to reports, 56 of the doctors had no visa for entry into the United Kingdom, while only 2 were carrying visas. Joining us on the show, we'll speak with him in a minute, is the President of Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Aliyu Sukunba. We'll talk to you in a minute. What are your thoughts on this? When you read the story, what came to mind?
Well, mixed feelings. First of all, let me tell you, the NIS, they were able to stop they were able to stop 58 people who had no visas, medical doctors who had no visas, and they were traveling to the UK. And first, that's supposed to be an illegality, but I understand that we have what we call visas on arrival. And I know that Nigeria has some bilateral agreements with some African countries where when they come into Nigeria, they get their visas. So if that was the arrangement these doctors had, how did it pass over immigration? I would expect that this is something that would have been done, the NIS would have been taken along, with this. And then you have, it was a chartered flight. So the report just seems a bit for me, I would like more confirmation
Okay,
on what...
before we even get that far, because Nigerians may not have an idea what we're talking about. What happened was that the NES healthcare in the UK, healthcare actually posted job vacancies for medical doctors from Nigeria. So what happens is that the offer on the table was they earn £51,000. That's the annual salary. That's about 47 million naira per year. They get free meals every day, and they can be posted anywhere in the UK, and they have 150 private hospitals across Europe. So obviously this is juicy. So they applied for these jobs, and everything went perfectly well. Now, because of COVID-19, the embassies are closed, so they couldn't get visas. So they spoke with the NES Healthcare in the UK, and they were able to make an arrangement to get them to fly over and get their visa on arrival. Now, we don't know if this plan happened outside NIS. Obviously, it did, because NIS, our own immigration services, were not aware of this. So after they finished all the arrangements with the UK government and these 58 doctors, they now carry themselves to the airport ready to fly away. And NIS said, where are you going? So where's your visa?
So for me, is how are you able to do all that without the NIS being involved in the first place? Why do we wait? What happened that it had to get to the point of them traveling at the airport to, to find out that they didn't have visas? You would think that the UK government would be in talks with our NIS.
Okay, so for me, I think that usually you don't communicate with the immigration service when you're traveling, actually.
Yeah, the individuals.
The only time you interface with the Nigerian Immigration Service, NIS, is when you are at the airport about to take off, where they just stamp and confirm you have a visa. So if these people already had a confirmation that maybe they had, probably they will have a letter saying that you get visa on arrival. So they would have thought, I get to the airport, they charter the flight, I have my passport, I have this document showing that while I don't have a visa stamped on my passport, I have this letter saying, come, you would get. So I won't necessarily blame the doctors. However, I think Nigerians should be worried about this, that...
We will come to the let's clear up this issue first. We have the president,
right or wrong?
Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. He's with us on the phone right now. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Good morning. Please tell us exactly what happened.
Thank you very much. Well, as you rightly mentioned, some days back, the NES in the United Kingdom had made some advertisement for doctors who are interested in working in UK to apply for the resident medical officer appointment, which most doctors from Nigeria did as usual. And because of the COVID-19, they were unable to secure their visa, and eventually they were able to get an arrangement for a visa exemption waiver for them to get the waiver when they arrive in United Kingdom. And for one reason or the other, that was not appropriately communicated to the Nigerian Immigration Service. And that was how they were stopped from proceeding to UK as planned. So basically, the doctors were not trying to illegally get to UK. They were going there on the premise and assumption that all arrangements has been made for them to get to UK with visa waiver. So that's basically what happened.
Got to the airport. Isn't it enough that you have your waiver showing that you're meant to get visas on arrival? Why should that be a reason to stop their flight? Is that not a legal document enough?
That's what we all, but as I there are some communication that is the immigration is not convinced that he should allow those people to speak.
We can't hear you, Dr. Sukunba. Let's go on a commercial break. We'll see if we can sort out this technical issue so we can hear you properly. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we still have with us the President, Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Aliyu Sukunba. Sir, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, good to have you join us again. Now, we know you are the president. We were talking initially about the immigration issues with these 58 doctors leaving our country. So from our end, it seems that there's a disconnect between the NIS, the UK government, and these doctors. And maybe your association can help them help us clarify that. What are you doing so far to help ensure that this is cleared up for them?
Well, for us, it's not good news that the doctors in this large number are leaving the country for other countries. It's unfortunate, and we strongly frown at it, even though we have no choice and we have nothing to tell them to discourage them from leaving. But then, if for any reason they are unable to leave, I think it is to the advantage and interest of the country. However, we have, on our part, been able to reach out to the Nigerian Immigration Service to see how this mix-up can be clarified. And I believe they are making frantic efforts to rectify it as soon as possible.
Let me go back to what you said earlier. So you think right now, from what we're discussing, because there's a pandemic and we need all these doctors around, are you suggesting that the doctors shouldn't be allowed to travel out of the country? And if that is so, they're being offered 47 million naira annually. In your view, I can't even ask that question. We can't match it, obviously, but in your view, how do you dissuade them from taking that decision to move over to a different country?
Well, leaving the country or not leaving is the right of the individual doctors and their choice, their prerogative to make. However, we are of the opinion that a country like Nigeria that is 10 times short of the required doctor to provide healthcare service in the country cannot afford losing the few doctors we have to developed countries like the United Kingdom that have at least sufficient amount of doctors to cater for their needs at the moment. So we are of the opinion that whatever is required to dissuade these doctors to remain in Nigeria should be done. Unfortunately, that is not seeing the light of the day. As you are quite aware, the offer is quite attractive, and except for any reason, anybody who is giving this offer cannot afford to reject it, especially in a country like Nigeria, where the services of doctors and other healthcare workers is not appreciated. So we will wish that the government will live up to their expectations, improve on the health well-being of these healthcare workers, doctors inclusive, so that it can serve as some form of incentive for those who are frustrated and have one reason or the other to leave this country. We have been clamoring, for example, now that the life insurance be made available for doctors. We know that the work we do is having some inherent hazard and risk, and we have come to terms with it that should anything happen to us, let us have something we can resort back to. Let the family of the late doctor have something to fall back on before they get back on their feet. And we have been on this for the past 15 years, not working. So these are some of the factors that push people out of this country. So I wish the government can live up to their expectations so that these doctors will have a change of mind and remain to serve their country.
Okay, before we talk about the expectations of the doctors, can we just address that? Do the immigration officers have a right to stop people from that have papers from traveling? Because obviously they have paid for the tickets to travel, they've booked the flights, they have their passports, they probably had the documentation showing that they were going to get visas on arrival in the UK. Does immigration have a right to now stop them at that point? Can the doctors sue the immigration for costing them the opportunity to travel when they had already done all the procedures? Who will be blamed? Is it not contravening their human rights to freedom of movement?
That's what it is. Unfortunately, we are not security experts, but the little we know is that the doctors have done their part to have a free flight out of this country. And if for any reason the immigration services are claiming that there's a lot that needs to be done before they can be allowed to leave, We on our part are trying to see how this can be resolved amicably. And should that fail, then perhaps the doctors may have to consider suing the immigration service.
I don't know. I worry about that, sir, because the truth is that there are laws that are guiding and the Nigerian Immigration Service. They know definitely that certain countries you cannot enter without visas. We know the ones that you can enter without visas. So a country who we know that you have to have a visa and is in the law, now, without a visa, you cannot enter. Suddenly, you now come with the paper saying, oh, sorry, they'll give me visa on arrival. Of course, I can understand where NIS is coming from, saying, I'm sorry, you have to inform us officially that you're giving these people some kind of special situation where they can come to the United Kingdom without visa. So I doubt if they have any grounds to sue. Either way, I think there's just a miscommunication or the fact that...
Beef.
No, it can't be beef now. I think it's an oversight on the part of NES in the UK, not informing officially we're a sovereign nation, for heaven's sakes. You want to bring our citizens to your country, the least you can do is to tell us, okay, I'm going to give a special situation for these 58 to come to my country without visas.
Some people feel it's beef.
It is disregard for our government, and I think they owe us an apology for that. That's my feeling, though.
Because you feel like doctors are traveling. You're wondering, how can 58 doctors carry their 2 legs and walk out of Nigeria when we are in a pandemic situation? That is selfishness. That is...
No, Mariah, I'm thinking if there were like 10 flights and 2 doctors on each flight or 5 doctors on each flight, we would not have heard about this. But to see 58 doctors together leaving at the same time, it would worry anyone, and especially what we're facing now. And I'm wondering what the president of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors is doing. Are you on the part of the doctors? So are you representing the doctors in this case, like this is their right and they have to go? Or are you on the part of government, which is, well, first we did not get the appropriate, you didn't follow the appropriate procedure, and please, we're in a pandemic, you should stay home? You can't hear us.
I think we lost him. Let's go on a break. No. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Your View.
Yes.
Thanks for staying with us. So to get other perspectives to this matter we're discussing, we're having the National Medical Association Chairman on COVID-19 Lagos, our own dear brother, Dr. Japhet Olugbogi. Good morning, sir. Are you there?
Good morning.
Morning. Good to have you on. So we'll discuss COVID in a minute, but let us hear your thoughts on these 58 doctors. Were you amongst 58 doctors? 47 million per annum. Very attractive. Okay, but in your view, what do you think happened? Or how could this have been averted?
Well, I think some people wanted to travel out of the country, one reason or the other, and the government stopped them. One will have thought that Nigerians didn't have the right to travel in and out of the country. The fact they are not breaking any rules or any laws. So they wanted to travel to the UK for one reason or the other. And the immigration people stopped them, claiming that they don't have visa. But I'm not sure anybody who is educated would want to travel without having visa or having the right documents to travel. So I personally think their rights were infringed upon. And that should not be so.
Okay, so I actually agree with you on the idea of the immigrations, because for me, their job will be to prevent foreigners without documentation from entering the country they protect. So the job of the immigration in the UK is to prevent undocumented people from coming into their country. The NIS, I don't think, really should have done that. And I would like maybe an NIS official would call us in on the show right now and let us know what we don't know.
Can I say something with you? You know that if we had allowed them to go and they send them back, we are still the ones that will criticize. How did they leave our borders? We will. Nigerians. We will yab. How did they leave? All this, they are just there they're not doing their job. We will be the ones to yab them. How did they even cross our borders in the first place?
That's not their job, Shadi. Anyway, tell us that's not their job.
Let's go back to this COVID-19 matter. Do you want to ask questions? Now, Japhet.
Yeah.
Can we get an update? What's happening? Obviously, we have more deaths due to COVID-19. The numbers are increasing. Could you just give us an idea what's happening at the IDH? How are the tests ongoing? How far have you gone? How many tests are you doing per day now? How many centers do you have to collect samples? Has anything improved since the last time we spoke?
Well, last time we spoke, the numbers increased. So,
Obviously.
I don't know whether went or not. But if the numbers means that we are asking in Lagos now, there are 7.
The network is really bad today.
Yeah. Oh,
Is he still there?
Are you still there?
looks like he's gone.
We're going to have to call him back.
Oh,
Yeah,
I really wanted to ask concerning the testing, because really we still have issues of if someone, now it's community spread, so I can't really contact trace. But if somebody is feeling like they have symptoms of COVID, how can the person just walk? Where can the person walk to? I would really like him to be able to give us that information.
Yeah,
Is
the
he
information.
back?
Okay.
Oh, okay. Did you hear the question?
Hello?
Yeah, we lost you. So you were giving us an update on the numbers since we last spoke, the test centers and...
Yes. But people who want to test free of charge are still allowed to go to the government offices, the bank but we still need to do more in terms of testing. We need more private labs to be accredited. So the government should accredit more private labs to test more people, because we are supposed to be testing, isolating, and treating. It is when we test that we'll be able to isolate people and then treat them. And if somebody tests positive and the person is asymptomatic, the people, the government can pull up.
Dr. Jaffet, we cannot hear you at all. I'm sorry, I have to cut that line off. I'm sorry. Maybe another time we'll get an update. But obviously here, I think what I heard him say is that we need more testing centers,
yes,
and we need more collation centers. And we need to accredit more private hospitals to help.
I think I heard him also mentioning that if you want to have a free test done, you need to go to the known centers, because but I wanted to have the information, because I know that we could go to Yaba to get tested, but we don't have that fact on if somebody feels like you might have COVID, can you just walk into Yaba and get tested for
And he said something about testing, isolating. So once you get tested, you're supposed to be isolated, not even you can't go back home. Is that what he's saying? I couldn't...
That's what we should have done, but we don't have facility to do.
We don't have the facility to...
We have one tweet for this doctor's immigration that we're talking about. Ibrahim says, why is nobody blaming the government that created the climate for this to be possible, where doctors are not duly compensated for their hard work and were still being owed salaries? Stevie Kusu says, why should I stay in a country that doesn't value me and the services I render? I will go if I'm a medical doctor. How much do doctors get as hazard allowance? If a doctor dies, what do government do to see that the family he or she leaves behind is being taken care of? Obo Lawrence says, don't the doctors have a right to travel? If they get there illegally, it is not the duty of the receiving country to... Is it not the duty of the receiving country to send them back? Let's leave sentiments, but sort out the reason why they want to leave in the first place.
Paul Ayaize says, it's sad, Sha, that 58 medical doctors are leaving for UK, and I'm sure they must have been some of the best since interviews were done. Jones Adeo says, medical brain drain on rampage again. 57 million naira annual allowance is too juicy to forfeit. Yet the doctor should have carried the necessary authorities along to avoid such embarrassment.
And June StarTimes says this. He says, this is very serious. We have a scarcity of doctors in Nigeria, and we're now allowing more trained doctors to move to the UK. I understand people trying to improve their career, but this is a very serious issue of robbing the poor by rich nations.
Andrew, come home first, please.
Because we know where you are.
How convenient.
How convenient.
Yeah. But the truth is that...
Doctors are currently on strike in Lagos,
Yes, they're on strike, and I wanted an opportunity to, because the Lagos State government has actually addressed many of the issues. They are paying them. They've actually, according to them, they've even paid them much more, because there was an issue of the fact that what they were paying the federal government, what the federal government was paying the doctors is not comparison to what Lagos State was paid. And they said they've been able to match it. And we're going to go, I think I'm going to have a show maybe tomorrow, so to be able to break down exactly what the Lagos State government... we wanted them to finish their meetings today first, to know exactly what the final, their final agreement is. So we now have a white paper on what the plans are. But I know that their issues are being addressed.
There's a disconnect somewhere. Because the doctors are on strike now, and one of the issues the doctors raised was that they've not been paid 2 months' salary at the isolation center. So what... And the government's reply, which I have, was that they've been paid for May and June. So if the government's paid, but the doctors are saying they've not been paid, there is something going wrong somewhere, and we should...
out is the PPEs. the doctors are still asking for protective equipment. I mean, why are we still here? That should not be on the list. First of all, their safety. That's it.
Yeah. Let me take this call from Madam. Madam, thanks for calling. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead. You're live.
Thank you. I'm calling for the first time.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I want to believe that NIS or the immigration people, they want to show patriotism. It is forbidden in a certain country, especially like India. A group of professionals leave their domain and go to somewhere. They are supposed to stay at home and contribute and make contribution. Yes. Some countries, they don't even allow some people to buy vehicle outside that country, like India again. You have to develop, put your money there so that you develop the state. So these people are a group of doctors who want to go to, so should stay in this time of pandemic crisis. That is my contribution.
Thank you, Adamu. Thank you for your views.
Just quickly going back to doctors being on strike, I must say that for whatever reason, this is the most wrong time to be going on strike. We have pressing issues, and I know that I'm not in their line of duty, so I don't understand how exposed or the dangers, because guess what? In the past 1 week, they confirmed 60 doctors being COVID positive. Yesterday, YK lost someone really close to her, a doctor also. You know, so people are dying. So I can understand the pain, but Lagos needs you, Nigeria needs you. This is not the time to down your tools. The government has said that we're already negotiating with you. They've been having conversations with them.
Let me highlight a few things, because I do have the information, but we're waiting for today's meeting before we have a show on it. But let me just, since we keep going back to it, one of the issues they said was that the Lagos State, that they need to fast-track testing of health workers. They had issues with that. And Lagos said that they put together 1 day every week has been set aside for testing of healthcare professionals exclusively. They said they wanted a separate isolation center for health workers who test positive. And isolation center has been opened in Agidimbi for them. They said inclusion of medical guild in emergency operations center. The members of the guild have always been part of this emergency operation, and their participation has been strengthened recently. They also complained accommodation of health workers. They've been accommodating and feeding health frontline workers 3 meals a day, every single day, from a hotel since the beginning of the pandemic. Insurance for health workers. All frontline health workers in isolation centers have been insured by the consortium of insurance companies, all Lagos State civil servants, including all health workers in Lasako. So many of their issues have been addressed. One more thing, shortage of health workers. The governor has given approval for health for 760 health workers, of which at least 400 are doctors. So all the line items are being addressed, but either way, because some people are still complaining, there's a meeting again today. At the end of the day, we'll find out exactly what the final submission is, and then we'll have a show and have somebody from the health sector or the government to tell us exactly how it has been totally and completely resolved. Because just like 47 million naira annually, it's not beans. That's a lot of money. And what that does, a light bulb, that listen, we have doctors here. How much?
No,
that's
the
my
doctor
worth.
realized that worth this.
That's my
Somebody
worth.
is willing to pay for my brain this much money.
Jesus.
I can't stay here. So we need to do more. We need to give non-financial compensation that would make it worthy for them to stay here. Because every doctor staying here is making a sacrifice.
Exactly.
But then I'm thinking, this pandemic over there, doctors are dying over there as well. Are we taking our African doctors to be the front line there? So that
they're taking themselves. We're not the one taking them. They're taking themselves.
I know, but I'm thinking, why are we heavily compensated? Heavily compensated because...
No, but listen, hey, I don't understand. It's just that we've obviously neglected the health sector and the education sector for too long. So your counterparts, you're here earning 100,000, 200,000, 300,000.
Well, I know what's going to happen. If all our doctors leave, our government will have no choice now but to have expatriates. I think we respect expatriates better and we pay them more. So when we start bringing them in and using our hard-earned money to pay them so much,
doctors like Dr. Tayo Bajakodomi that we spoke to earlier, they are all returnees. So instead of allow our doctors to go to get experience, but then let's plan to bring those who are experienced, bring them back, make the environment conducive for them to work. So maybe that should be the strategy. Don't prevent from going, because we want them to go and get the experience and expertise.
See, these are local
bring back those who have learned.
But these people leaving are local doctors. They have enough experience here. It's based on the experience that they have here that will work for them abroad. That's what they're asking for them.
That's all we can take. Have a fabulous day. See you tomorrow. Bye for now.